So I'll preface this one before we get into the fact check. I had a friend friend and a colleague. We crossed paths as lawyers. Went to school once upon a time. My age, a little younger, passed away. Don't know the exact cause, but when anyone passes away, the immediate reflex for everyone, when anyone passes away or gets ill, the immediate reflex for everyone is to try to find a reason, try to find an explanation, try to say, why did this happen to them? And maybe you can call this confession through projection, but I'll just admit that this is my reflex as well. Why did this happen to them, in order to say, okay, that's why it happened to them, so it won't happen to me. People die from lung cancer. First question is, did they smoke? Because if I don't smoke, okay, that's why it happened to them, so I'm safe at the very least from that. Died of a heart attack. Why did that happen to them? Were they overweight? Did they not exercise enough? Did they exercise too much? The irony is, like, people go into such a meticulous search for an explanation that is unique to the individual so they can feel a little bit safer themselves. Overweight, didn't exercise. Okay, fine. I'm healthy. Oh, they did exercise. Well, did they exercise too much? Did they run ultra marathons? Did they overexert themselves? Okay. And so, when bad things happen to other people, the human tendency is to say, why did this happen to them, in order to try and, create some sort of barrier as to why it can't happen for me. The recent one, and I'm sure we all understand where I'm going with this, the recent one is, the tendency now is when something bad happens, people are looking for a very specific, contemporaneous explanation for why it might have happened. I'll say for political reasons, for ideological reasons, or just for neuroses reasons. So now the tendency is that anything bad that happens to anyone, prominent celebrities, friends, family, whatever, a lot of people's immediate reflex is to go back to the Fauci and say, might that explain why? For everything. The drummer for the Foo Fighters passes away suddenly, chest pains, people hypothesize. People go to what the explanation that they want to focus on, and then maybe set aside the other ones, like apparently from the toxicology reports of the Foo Fighters drummer, he had upwards of 10 drugs in his system at the time. Other people are even going to be able to merge those two explanations together to say, he had the 10 drugs in his system at the time, but for the one that I want to blame it on, it might not have happened. So that's the tendency now. Something happens, people look to blame, or people look to try to draw a correlation between the Fauci and the incident. Let me just go ahead and take that one down. So the most recent one, Bruce Willis diagnosed with aphasia. I didn't know what aphasia was specifically. And then reading up on aphasia, I was trying to distinguish between aphasia and Alzheimer's. My grandmother had early onset Alzheimer's, diagnosed when she was 80 some odd years old, and she lived to 103 and was still pretty lucid up until the last few years, relatively. I mean, there was some clear deterioration, but was happy and had a good life and could enjoy a smoked meat sandwich at Snowden Delicatessen. Bruce Willis is diagnosed with aphasia, which is a cognitive impairment that results in the loss of speech, the loss of understanding, the failure to understand language and to communicate. A lot of, it is, from what I understand, caused by head trauma, potentially, a stroke, potentially, and then also potentially degenerative issues. So I know, reflexively, people are going to try to draw connections between that and the other. I wouldn't have done it, and I don't believe personally that there's, in every case, there's not going to be a connection. The only problem is once everyone has undergone a certain procedure, anything that happens to anyone can be attributed to that procedure. But there was just, I came across this fact check of a fact which I didn't think ordinarily would ever need to be fact checked, and reading it, I mean, you appreciate that these fact checks do potentially more damage than good to what might otherwise be the objective truth. I'm just going to pull this one up. Make sure we can see it. I mean, I don't know of the credibility of the fact check, whatever Tech Harp. I don't know what it could be. Total bunk. I don't know who's behind the website. You just see another one of these fact checks pop up, and we're going to get to another one afterwards. A fact check that actually doesn't necessarily prove the fact that they're trying to contradict. Let me just do one thing here, put that on mute. Okay, that's a call from the... So I don't know what fact check this is. I don't know what the website is, but just read this here, the claim, because people are making the claim. Bruce Willis got aphasia from, whatever. Almost immediately after the news broke, Bruce Willis was retiring after his aphasia diagnosis. People started claiming that he got it from whatever. Here we go. You got the claims. Now, it's interesting. Some of the facts you can just appreciate are true. No evidence Bruce Willis' aphasia was caused by the Fauci juice. And you know why? Because decent evidence here. He's been working in Hollywood for an extended period of time. So it was not contemporaneously like some people were passing off as misinformation on the internet. Then you get into the interesting ones here. And you'll read this. Okay? The Fauci does not cause the aphasia. Aphasia is caused by damage to the part of the brain that handles speech and language. There are many causes of aphasia, but the most common cause is a stroke. Well, then people, right now you make this statement. The fact checkers make this statement. But we know that this particular, this is one of the stated side effects on Pfizer's long list of potential side effects. The stroke is one of the reasons why some of the substances were pulled from the market. It is also commonly seen with severe head injury, a brain tumor, or progressive neurological conditions or dementia. Okay, fine. Some people are going to say that, Bruce Willis did his stunts on his own. He obviously suffered head trauma throughout the course of his career, and that could explain it. But here, aphasia is not caused by it, but it results from a stroke. But we know that a stroke is a potential side effect. So already right now, this fact check actually, for those who want to believe or do believe what they already believe, this is actually just giving fodder to that belief. No evidence Willis got his second dose recently. This is another interesting one because you're going to see how this plays with another claim. There's no evidence he got it recently. So the claim was that, it was within a week he suffered aphasia. He's been working in Hollywood for a long time, 15 films since 2021, so probably did not recently get a dose, although who knows about a booster? Who knows? So this claim here, again, it purports to contradict a fact, but then it leaves open a window for anyone who wants to say, okay, if this is your basis for saying this, fact check, if he got a booster, then this fact here now could potentially confirm what I already believe. And this is what's amazing here. Look at this. Forget the label here. Just forget this label. People point out that aphasia is in the 9-page list. Look at this, people. Many, and they brand them. They brand them to write them off, to denigrate them so that they don't have legitimate beliefs, whatever. Many people point out that aphasia is in the 9-page AESI list that they claim as evidence of side effects claimed by the Pfizer. Okay, but hold on. Right here, it just said it doesn't cause it. So on the one hand, fact two, they say it doesn't cause it. That's fake. And then on the other hand, they say, oh, it is. They point out that it is on the list of 9-page potential side effects. So it doesn't. There's no correlation. False. Okay, fine. It's on the list that came from Pfizer itself. And then listen to this. The truth is, the list of adverse effects of special interest is actually just a generic list of adverse events that Pfizer look for. I don't believe that's true, but the list, it's included in the list. They're saying it's just a generic list. Well, no, you don't want to put more side effects than possible on any medication. There's the argument. Two arguments are going to be: it's a cover your butt, add everything in case someone gets something they can't sue you, but the company's already had immunity. Flip side argument is that no drug manufacturer wants to include additional side effects that aren't actual potential side effects. And my understanding is that the side effects that were listed on that sheet, on the Pfizer document, they're listed there because they did in fact occur. However imminently rare they were, they did in fact occur. That's why they were on the list of potential side effects. So then you got this. It didn't cause it after 7 days. True, but we have unless you go back to the prior statement, which was, it doesn't cause that, but certain side effects that it does cause could potentially lead to aphasia. I do not believe there's a correlation to this, and I think it's just people's trauma that they're now trying to correlate any tragedy with this because they try to make sense of it. But this fact check is going to actually affirm and reaffirm people's beliefs by virtue of its own logic and by virtue of its own facts, by virtue of its own citations. Millions of people develop aphasia every year. Okay. Now the question is going to be, are more people developing aphasia now than before a certain period of time? And it's just terrible because, first of all, it's like Alex Jones. Here, I'll link this in case anybody wants to read it. Take it for what it's worth. It's like Alex Jones described in his deposition, where he referred to it as a form of psychosis, where he thinks everything is a conspiracy theory. He questions everything. I don't consider it a form of psychosis, and I think Alex Jones misspoke in his deposition when he said that. I do consider it a form of trauma, a form of psychological, intellectual, spiritual trauma, where we have been lied to so much and so often by media and by experts that now, even when they say something that is correct, if it seems suspicious enough that we would question it, we now question what we would otherwise not question. And this just goes back to the curse of the liar. They can never be believed again, even when they're telling the truth. And when you know that the CBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fauci himself have said factually incorrect statements or statements that they have reversed a full 180, how do you go back to trusting them ever again? And when they do say something that is in fact correct, and you doubt it, I mean, you have your reasons for doubting it, and you have your reasons for being unable to believe anything these people say, even when it's true, because of how much incorrect or false or flipped positions they've taken in the past.